Hello, everybody. My name is Rennie Mikhailis, and Wall Street has probably done the impossible in this era. Um, they pretty much caused full compass unity, where pretty much like the left and the rights could just agree on this. People from both the left and the rights are really, really upset with Wall Street. With the left, it seems to be ideologically motivated, but with the rights, the rights also has its reasons for hating Wall Street. Oh, here's a good one by Anna Kasparian. She's not right swing, but this is a good one. So the markets, so market manipulation by Federal Reserve pumping money into failing banks and corporations is okay, but Reddit users rallying GameStop is wrong and must be regulated. The entire stock market is disconnected from reality. Funny how quickly the financial press cries for hedge funds. Yeah. Oh, okay, like here's one from like a poster from anarcho capitalism. What has happened with GameStop and the assholes hedge funds is pure capitalism. When the little guy makes money off assholes gambling the economy, there is sudden cost for regulation, prosecution, and halting trades. Fuck Wall Street. The bankers gamble with people's life savings, and we are told to suck it up if they lose our retirement fund. However, when we make money off the bankers, we are told the regulation is needed, bailouts need to happen, and trading needs to be stopped for markets correction. This is capitalism fighting what Rothbard called it the big business state's axis of evil. At this point, sacking Wall Street is acceptable within the NAP to recover stolen property that was given to them via bailouts. Yeah, there is the reason why right wingers hates, Wall Street too, because it's kind of like, I mean, taxes goes to bailing out banks. It's like, in a way, we do have a welfare state, except the welfare is going to really rich people. It's like instead of, the government the government helping the poor, the government is constantly bailing out banks. We have this anti competitive form of capitalism. And competition is actually like very important, a very important parts of capitalism. It is like necessary for capitalism, but this is why people call it corporatism. It's basically authoritarian capitalism, or it's basically an capitalism and an oligarchy combined with each other, like an unholy union between capitalism and an oligarchy. It is basically anti-competitive capitalism, and what it does is that it keeps the rich people rich and it keeps the poor people poor, because it's like from a more right-leaning perception, it's like, they give our jobs to the Uyghur Muslims, but it's like slave labor. Like the Uyghur Muslims, they are slaves. Let me pull the article up. And basically, here's an article by the New York Times about the Uyghur Muslims being slaves. It's like these people, these corporations are benefiting from slave laborers. So when we say they're like giving our jobs to the Chinese or they're giving our jobs to the Uyghur Muslims, you need to understand that these people, that these corporations, Nike and whatnot, Nike, Apple, Amazon, they benefit from slavery. They are they are basically like, okay, like Joe Biden would raise the minimum wage in America to $15 an hour to make Americans more expensive. And then companies go, well, we cannot support Americans because Americans are far too expensive to hire. So they give our jobs to Uyghur Muslims. But the problem is, it's slavery, it's forced labor. Like, so the Uyghur Muslims, they see zero of the money that they're working for. Or it's like, it's basically they would give our jobs to children in sweatshops where they make only pennies today. It's like these children are slaves. So it's kind of like, I think that in any way, the left and the right do have more in common than they think that they do. Because when I listen to the left, many people in the anarchist left have a problem with the Uyghur Muslims being slaves. But the people on the right also have a problem with the Uyghur Muslims being slaves. Because it's kind of like these corporations are really, really crooked. And they hate competition. Oftentimes these corporations, they often engage in anti-competitive practices. Or it's kind of like, why is colleges so ridiculously expensive? There is this great video that I recommend that you check out. um Basically, it's College: The Profitable Business of Enslaving Students by Jake Tran. I heavily recommend that you watch it because it's about how college is engaging in predatory practices by making it, ridiculously expensive to go to college. But it's also like college is absolutely necessary to get a job. So it's like you need to go to college to get a job. But it's like college is so ridiculously expensive that practically, well, very few people could go to college. Like this video would explain, that the overwhelming majority of people end up dropping out of college within 2 years of going there because they can't keep up with the prices. The price is just too high. It's like, okay, like there's this story about a woman who was arrested and jailed for braiding hair without a license. This is so stupid. Like, why do we need a license for everything? Why do we need a license for everything? I mean, arrested and jailed for braiding hair without a license. I mean, for starters, because of slavery and segregation and redlining, black people tend to be poorer than white people. For black people, going to college is like really ridiculously expensive. And because of the history of slavery and segregation and whatnot, black people, we learn to do our own hair. We learn to do our own hair. And of course, like there's a time where black people probably couldn't go to school at all. So what we do is that we learn to do our own hair. But then what you do, it's like you make, going to college to do hair, when most black people learn to style hair like back when they're like, like 10 years old. Like there would be black girls as young as not at 10, and their parents, would have them braiding and styling and doing hair at a young age. So it's like quite weird to, it's like, arrest somebody for selling hair without a license. It's basically, it keeps the rich people rich, And it keeps the poor people poor. And then there's the midst of racism and classism. Black people who are usually poor cannot really afford to, go and spend, like $33,000 for a college. But it's like we do, but slavery, segregation, redlining, we learn. I mean, of course, you're going to learn how to do hair because you can't, um, because I mean, Black Wall Street was the thing, and there has been, successful black businesses in the past. You basically can't go places like looking any kind of way. So it's only natural that black people would learn to style hair. But now it's like, oh, no, you had to go and get a license to style. And it's basically a Karen law. It's basically a Karen law, like when that black boy, got him like arrested for like mowing the lawn for money, or it's kind of a lot like, or a black children getting arrested for having a lemonade stand without a license. We have like really, really stupid laws. And again, it just seems like anti-competitive capitalism or corporatism is basically authoritarian capitalism. Capitalism meeting oligarchy, where you are not allowed to compete. It's kind of like the wild, wild west era of YouTube was amazing. People loved the wild, wild west era of YouTube because you could say whatever you want, which allowed people to be very creative. It's the heights of YouTube. It's where you see so many funny, amazing, videos. But then, the SJWs and came and they're like, you can't say this. It's offensive. You can't do that. And that's offensive. And basically, the problem with the SJWs, like, Kevin Logan and Christy Winters and Michael Rowlands saying can't say this because it's offensive, you can't say that, is that these rules do not really apply to corporations. There are so many YouTubers pointing out that corporations and the average YouTuber are following two different rules. Corporations could still pretty much say and do whatever they want, but your average YouTuber can't. Like Christy Winters would, have a fainting fit, if a YouTuber were to say the N word. But Bill Maher, why is Bill Maher still on YouTube? He said the N word. Or it's kind of like, if you ever seen the TV series Penny Dreadful, the woman who's played Vanessa Ives, she's a white woman. She said the N word. How come her career isn't destroyed? Have any of you ever watched the movie Fahrenheit 451? Starring Michael B. Jordan. His white co-star, he said the N-word. How come his career is since ruined? How come the elites could still say and do whatever they want, but these rules only apply to people who go from rags to riches? You would think that people would be happy and thrilled for a rags to riches story. You would think people would be happy and grateful that, a person went from being, dirt poor and barely eating and mostly starving to like suddenly like being like colossally, or at least like making a decent living off YouTube, living their dream job. But instead, a rise to riches story, it's like, oh, you used the wrong word, which makes these people poor again. And it's not right because we had a society where pretty much anybody could be successful. It was the wild, wild west era of YouTube was like a dream come true. And what's made it a dream come true is that just about anybody could be a success. Now, only the rich who are already successful are only allowed to be a success. So, anyway, my name is Serena Mikhailis, and those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.